So the problem with this ignition switch appears to be there's a little contact down inside that was stuck. I think what happened was that it got dirty and slightly corroded, and resistance set in. It got a little bit of heat where it shouldn't have, and this little U-shaped connector or contactor that's on a spring stuck down. And once it stuck down, it would no longer make enough contact to carry current to feed the ignition coil and the fuel pump. That's the two things that were not working. Little backstory, Sunday I was riding the bike, stopped to eat, came out, turned the key on, and got a big nothing. If I wiggled the ignition, I could get the lights to flicker on the dash, but I could not get it to power up the coil or the fuel pump. It also would not go into park lamp mode, which told me that the contactor in question had to be this main triple contactor here. Because if you lose that one, you can't get current from this white wire, which is coming from your main fuse, to anything else in the switch, or anything else the switch feeds. So, anyway, pulled the switch apart in the parking lot, but you know how that goes. I did manage to put it back together without losing any pieces. Still had issues, still wouldn't do what it was supposed to do, and I at that point had not figured out that one of the contactor pads wasn't actually making contact. So today I pulled you can see the bike sitting over there with the gas tank off. I pulled that out and pulled the whole ignition switch, unplugged it from the harness where it's buried up under the gas tank, and I now have a 4 amp or 3.82 amp test lamp, 3.82 amps at 12.6 volts, and I got a voltmeter. Right now I'm just using the test lamp to prove that the various circuits are working. So right now I'm testing the park lamp circuit, which is the blue wire and the red wire on your diagram here, and we're going to see if those two can connect together when the key is on, and look at that, they sure can. So that contactor is working inside the switch. You can hear the switch clicking. Also, if I go in, go all the way to park, that works. It just doesn't work the way I have the power coming. This is my incoming power, and this is my test. So we're going to move our incoming power back to our white wire, which is right here. And then we're going to take our testing wire and we're going to go to our brown wire. Brown wire is this one right here. And it's hard probably to see, but there's 1, 2, 3. When it's on, these 3 wires, the red or the brown, the white, and the gray, should all be connected together. Now the gray is a special wire. It has a 100 ohm resistor. So if you put this test lamp in there, it won't light the lamp, because the resistor is higher resistance than the test light. However, I believe that gray wire is the one that goes to the coils. So, in any case, it appears as though the switch is doing all the switch things. The other test I can run, the voltmeter, does allow me to see voltage through that 100 ohm resistor with no load on it. So, next test is just plug it in on the bike and see if it lights up the dash, and then see if the bike will start. So, that is what we're going to do next. So I've got the dash plugged in, I've got the ignition switch plugged in, and if I flip the ignition switch on, as you can see, everything's lighting up now. If I go to park mode, park lamps mode works. I don't know if you can see that. We'll spin you around here. maybe you can see, we have park lamp mode. Okay, that's off, on, push in, and then all you have is just the tail lamp. So that works like it should. So once again, so now let's see if she'll fire. We'll do that live. Get a little bit of the enrichment valve. She's in the neutral. I'd call that repaired. Not a difficult thing to figure out, just not easy to figure out when you're in the parking lot of a restaurant with a Leatherman tool, the tool bag on the bike. I did have a test light, there is that, and I was on the right track. I knew that the ignition switch was somehow involved, or its harness was somehow involved, because I had noticed a few little odd things where the bike occasionally you'd turn the key on and the fuel pump wouldn't run, and you'd have to turn it on and off a couple times, and then it would suddenly start and run. So I think I've sorted all that out now. I know kind of where the problem was in the switch. So, and I lubricated it with some silicone high temp grease. Basically dielectric grease, which by the way is only resistant to high voltage conductance, not low voltage, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, go read up on dielectric compounds and conductance and so forth. And I guess that's it. It's a wrap. I just got to put the tank back on and put everything back together, and this thing's ready to ride, so I can go out and enjoy this wonderful humid weather we've got, which is perfect for riding a motorcycle.